Our stories are not for us to keep. They're not ours. We are just the conduits through which they pass. So in my particular case, my story has freed a lot of people. And it's like, oh my God, thank you. It makes it permissible for them to talk about things that have happened to them. Because for a lot of us, especially in the Black community, we still see certain things as shameful. Our cultures, our customs, our traditions make it that way. And so it's not until now when we're breaking away, when we're saying we're going to leave our legacies, we're going to make our voices be heard, that we're starting to rather tell our stories in book format. We're doing them in plays, we're doing comedies, we're standing up, we're speaking, and we're sharing our stories through songs and all of that. And so what it's done is made it permissible for other people to feel that, oh my God, it's okay to just talk about what's hurt me. It's okay to unveil myself, unmask myself. And so our stories are ours to free others, to educate, to inspire, to transform, but most importantly, to help others cross over. And that's one of the things I believe, that my story, The Mango Girl, although some of it is very dark, I'm no longer that girl. I'm no longer that little girl who was so timid and scared and who was abused. I'm now a woman who has two beautiful children and trying to forge a different kind of life, and has mended a lot of relationships with my mom. For example, that's a very big relationship for me to have mended. So that's the first part. The second part of your question, if I'm remembering it right, was how did I heal? It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And I'm not going to sit here. I have a session on Instagram shortly where we're talking about forgiveness and confidence and self-esteem. I do it every Friday with one of my friends who's a forgiveness coach and the art of letting go strategist. And the reality is, letting go of this kind of shame and guilt and scars and trauma doesn't happen overnight. It took me years, and I'm still a work in progress. But some of the things that I did, that I teach my own clients in my training session and my coaching sessions, are things like I write. Writing is very therapeutic for me. I love to write, and I don't do enough now because I'm so busy, but writing is therapeutic. The other thing I did was I talk. I talk things out. I share with my friends. In the past, I have even overshared, but I was somebody to just share. I've gotten older and wiser, and because of that, I don't share as much. But the reality is that sharing was one of the things that I used to help me overcome. And I got therapy. I had a lot of therapy, because I am not going to sit here and knock therapy. I had a psychotherapy, I had counseling, I had coaching, and I then started sharing. The most cathartic for me was when I started sharing my story. I've done a lot of crying, and I forgave. Forgiveness was a big piece. I forgave some of the people who did me wrong. I forgave myself for feeling that it was my fault. And those are just some of the skills and strategies that I used. I wrote a diary. I kept a journal. I did some of those things, and I became a mother. And when I became a mother, especially with my daughter, it's a very pivotal turning point for me. And in there, I recognized that I could not sit there in this wounded place, because I know I had responsibilities. I needed to step up to the plate, and I couldn't be serving from an empty cup. So those are some of the things that really shaped and changed my story and how I saw it. Now, it's different for everybody, but what I want to say at this point, for those who are listening, is to find what works for you and milk it. Once you find what works, just keep repeating it, rinsing and repeating it, and be gentle on yourself, because these kinds of trauma don't just go in a second. It takes time and work. I hope
Thank you
that
so much
helps.
for that. Thank you so much for that. It helped a lot. It helps a lot. When you are genuine and your story is real, it can be read, it can be seen. This is a real story. All right, now, where do you start in the use of books for business? Because that is very important. Your story can be leveraged for your business. That is the premise from the beginning. Help us with that.
Where do you start? The first thing, that's a very, that's an amazing question. The first thing you have to do is to have a book. That's the first thing. You
Love
have
that.
to have a book. Now, I didn't say you have to have a story, because a lot of people think, well, Dr. Ava has got a story. Her story was, da 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 da. No, you have to have a book, and a book doesn't have to be a story. I say to my clients all of the time, whenever, and I'm saying it to you, Obi, if anybody asks you to do about how do you do something something 3 times. Abby, how do you turn on this switch? Abby, how do you turn on this switch? It's time to make a content. When you get asked something more than 3 times, it is time to make it into content. Yesterday, I was in a shop with someone, and I was getting some protein powder because I've started the gym and I'm trying to work on my, my health on my body. And I was buying some protein powder, and the person who I go to the gym with, I called her to just question from her if this is the right powder. And she said, "Oh, how much for it?" And I told her, and she said, "Oh, could you get me one?" And my friend said to me, "But Ava, you're not smart. You keep being asked XYZ. You should have said to her, I will supply you because you could make a profit." What am I saying? Everywhere around us, there are stuff we can write about. Everywhere around us, there are stuff we can write about. So if you're thinking, I don't have a story, that's okay. But do you know how to braid hair? Do you know how to tie Nigerian wrapper? Do you know how to speak Nigerian language? Do you know how to cook eba? Do you know how to make rice and peas? Do you know how to braid hair? Whatever you are good at and people keep asking you to do for them and you give it for free, stop doing it and start doing it for money. Write a book, make content. So the first question is, how do you use it? You have to have a book. And that's where I say to people, you have to have a book to be able to do that.
Thank you so much for that. That is important. You are just touching some important. I wish we could have a very long time because you are so valuable. But anyway, we're going to come back to you in some other occasion. Because this is one of the things that I've been promoting here in my podcast, in my content creation to the African diaspora, in that we do have a lot of potentials, just that we don't yet know that we do. Anything you know can be turned into business. Anyway, you already explained that, so I'm not going to go back there again. Now, talking of story, talking of event that happens in our life or in the life of other people, how do we inculcate them into our business? I don't know if you can share some few strategy with us there.
Okay, so I'm going to teach you a strategy I teach my clients, and this is what I do in my session. So I'm going to give away some of my free session here. This is a free coaching moment. Get a piece of paper or get a whiteboard or get a piece of cardboard, draw a stick man of yourself, literally, and start listing everything that you're good at. Start listing everything you've gone through. Start listing all of your failures. Start listing all of your successes. Start listing all the things you like. You get my drift? And then you make stories around each of those. And then when you are doing your business, for example, you start looking at how can I interject into my business resiliency. So let us say, for example, right now, my business needs me to do X. So let me take for argument's sake me and to find more customers, for example, right? I can reflect on how did I cope selling mangoes? When I was out there with a lot of mangoes to sell, how did I find the customers? You understand? So I could go back and deep dive into that strategy. Okay, I might be thinking of, okay, I want more speaking engagements. I can sit down and go back into the story of when I was in London, for example, and we were broke. How did I come out of being broke? And look at, okay, I did X, I did Y. Okay, I started pick up the phone and calling people. I started calling people and started saying, do you need X or do you need Y? So I started going back to my emails. So the stories that we have in our everyday lives can be applicable to our businesses. In COVID, a lot of us learned that we did not have to drive to work every day to be in an office to survive. So how do we put that into our businesses? We don't have to go out and physically meet our clients every day, drive and use petrol, wear clothes that we are going to have to wash. That's going to cost money. We can arrange a Skype. We can arrange a Zoom. Are you getting my drift?
Absolutely.
So that's how stories can be used in our businesses.
Thank you so much. And that really is a free course. I believe that people that are listening to us, they are getting the value. Now, another thing is important. Now, you know this story. What are the ways to use them to connect? Like, how do we measure to be sure that it's actually leading our business in the right way?
So let me give you a little secret. I'm going to tell you a secret. I'm going to give you one secret. Recently, I did a keynote for a company. And I remember going into the prep meeting, the tech meeting, right? We talk about 2023. And when I stepped into the tech meeting, I heard one of the vice presidents say, I know that voice. And I felt uncomfortable because I didn't expect to hear that. And I said, how did you know my voice? And he said to me, we in our office have been listening to your YouTubes for the last month. Now, let me be very transparent. My YouTube is rubbish. Like my lighting is bad all the time. I'm just very authentic, and I just jump on and just talk. and my daughter tells me sometimes, Mom, you need to do better at these things, and those kind. Mommy, you need to get a better camera. Mommy, to do that. Mommy, to do that. And my kids tell me all the time, and I'm old school, so sometimes I'm not into this Instagram shiny sparkle. I probably need to be. But little did I know that those little dingy stories I was sharing on YouTube would have landed me a massive keynote speech with a massive company. So that's one way. So when you're putting your stories out there, you're sharing your content. So Obi, let me say this to you. Continue to do your podcast, because you don't know when the right persons are going to be listening that are going to come to you and say, we need to do business with you.